Coming up on this episode, give me your thoughts, Adam. Lay it on me. Have I got a chance?
Ooh, it's going to be a close one, isn't it? I think it's...
So who do you think I got in the semi-final draw? Carry on listening to find out. Hello, and welcome back to the DraftCast. This week, Adam Waters is back with a new segment and the long-awaited semi-final draw for the DBF Pokal Cup. Are you excited for that, Adam?
I am indeed. I've been coincidentally quite excited for the draw, even though, and the whole competition as a whole, even though I went out at the very earliest stage. Actually, from the outside looking in on the quarterfinals and kind of commentating on the games, it was really good fun actually. So I'm quite looking forward to it now. It's getting to the nitty gritty. People are only 2 game weeks away from winning the trophy, so I'm hoping that we're going to find ourselves some good cup draws, and especially going into this weekend with some good fixtures, it could be really interesting.
Yeah, I am starting to get a bit nervous now about it. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll do that. You've got your new segment as well, which we'll do later. But before we start, just a reminder, please subscribe and like the video if you enjoy listening along to our, probably what we can say, mumbling about football. But yeah, no, it does help us out. So please do subscribe and like the video. And we'll start with the league table, Adam. Game week 29 was a very small one. 4 games, was it?
Yes, yeah. It was a bit of a 50-50 really, wasn't it? It was half of us really flopped it, and half of us actually got a half decent score out of it. Especially George was quite impressive.
Yeah, I did think we should talk about George's score of 51, considering there was only 4 games on. I think that's pretty impressive, to be fair. But is it going to hurt him moving forward? I don't know.
Well, this is it, isn't it? He's put an awful lot of faith into Brighton for the game we've just gone, and obviously, coincidentally, the 3 that he picked up were the ones that were scoring all the points against Newcastle. But then, if he's looking at keeping those type of players, then your next 2 games, for example, are Man United and Everton. So you would expect them not to perhaps get anywhere near the amount of points that they got against Newcastle. So it could be an interesting free agent week for George, just to see as to whether or not he will mix it up a little bit, or whether he will go with his tried and tested.
Yeah, I suppose considering looking at where his points came from, it was sort of those Brighton players and Lacazette for Arsenal. Everybody else only really scored 2 or 1, so it was quite a concentrated points, you could say, wasn't it? So
yeah, the 3 Brighton and Lacazette picking up 41 points out of those 4 players, and then that takes up, basically all of his points bar 10. Which is then split between 3, 6, 7 players. So you'd think if you were 10 points off 7 players, you'd have a mountain to climb. But it only takes 1, 2, maybe even 3 players to grab an assist or a goal and hit into the bonus points, and actually you've had a good week.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, I don't think there's much else to say on the league table. I really don't like it looking at my 9, and Lawrence must hate looking at that 6 as well.
That 6 is really quite interesting, considering it literally just came from 1 player as well, and he had 2 playing. So Cresswell getting 0 after grabbing a yellow card, and West Ham conceding 3 after being 3-0 up against West Ham. He thought he could have been in the points there, I think, considering.
Yeah.
So Sanchez, the Brighton keeper, did end up saving his week, because if Newcastle would have scored, it could have been a lowly 2 points. So it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting though, when I was doing the stats for the video that's just gone out, a lot of people's lowest game week score came from that game week. So Yeah, it's good to see everybody in the same boat. But no, well done to George for sort of planning for that week and it paying off. But like we say, is it going to hurt him moving on to the next game weeks? He is out of the cup, so he's probably not too worried about that at the moment. But he's done well to get up to fourth, joint fourth with myself, considering he has been in the lower half of the league for the majority of the season.
I think it's he's 3 points off Tolly now going into this game week. So 3 points off third. I mean, I put on the group chat must have been about a month ago, I'd say. I did like the look of his team, and I just think that the players that he had when I did make the comment that he could sneak into third, but obviously even now, picking up the Brighton and the couple of Fulham players as well, he's still got his Arsenal core there. Arsenal themselves have got an okay run-ish, barring this week against Liverpool, perhaps. But I'm intrigued to see actually where he ends up, because he has got an interesting team if he keeps a hold of the same players.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Yeah. It's difficult to... I mean, you keep looking at the fixtures, and maybe we'll move on to that. And you think, oh, that looks like it's going to be a difficult fixture, and then all of a sudden, it's points galore. So it's been a funny season, I think. But looking at the fixtures this week, are there any you've got your eye on thinking that's going to be, maybe 2 or 3 goals with a clean sheet in? So one team's going to, it's going to be completely one-sided and they're going to score the points. Or are any you think that are going to be a sort of really good contest and there's going to be a few goals each side, sort of thing?
I'm intrigued by a couple of fixtures. I think, from my own personal point of view, the first game of the game week, Chelsea at home to West Brom. I certainly would hope having a Chelsea clean sheet against West Brom. So I think if Chelsea turn up, that could be any scoreline really. And then you look through them. So Leeds at home to Sheffield United. Sheffield United are pretty much dead and buried now. You're looking at players like Bamford, Rafinha, Harrison possibly if he starts to get a nice run of minutes again under Bielsa. You'd imagine Leeds clean sheet, maybe a 2-3, possibly even 4-0 win. Leicester against Man City. Man City, as we know, they're on they're just a steam train at the moment. But Leicester's 5-0 win against Sheffield United, will that get the confidence up? Arsenal, Liverpool in itself as well. Arsenal have done okay recently. Liverpool haven't been quite so good, but I'd still probably go with the Liverpool win on that. Looking into Sunday, Southampton Burnley could be an interesting close game.
I hope not.
I don't think it's going to be a terribly high scoring game, but you just don't know this season. This is the best thing. I mean, we've just finished game week 29 and we're still getting the odd fixture which picks up like a really weird result. Spurs obviously went and beat Villa quite comfortably in the end. Newcastle away there, you would hope, if Son's back fit, and hopefully Bale gets a full game. That Kane, Son, and Bale trio up top with Lucas Moura kind of in that 10 role. It could just be any scoreline really. Villa against Fulham. Fulham have done okay. Villa should hopefully, fingers crossed, have Jack Grealish back as well. Ollie Watkins on the back of his England goal. Confidence should be high. I'd expect goals in that game as well. United Brighton, you never quite know what to expect off United from week to week. But Brighton, they get the plaudits for playing good football. Results haven't necessarily followed, apart from obviously the recent game week at home to Newcastle. And then the Monday fixtures are going to be the interesting ones. I think I can't imagine people picking up too many points out of the Monday fixtures unless Everton you would suspect to keep a clean sheet against Palace. And Wolves don't seem to concede that many against anyone at the moment, but they're not scoring either. But West Ham, great form. Antonio is a nightmare on the break. Lingard, obviously confidence will be high after being back in the England squad. It's going to be a really interesting game week, and I can see. So I'm going to put it out there now. I reckon we could see somebody break a 70 or an 80-point week.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Yeah, there are a few more favourable fixtures potentially than there are sort of a decent match. But yeah, I think there are. You like the Man United Brighton game. I think you're right, but I also think Brighton do have, like you say, they do have the capability to bring out a random scoreline. So it could be an interesting game.
Well, the game week score to beat is 81, and that's just off a single game week. I've just got a sneaky feeling somebody might get very, very close to that, but I'm not going to put any names on it because I'll make myself look silly.
Yeah, I think that it would be quite difficult to make that prediction because, like you say, the teams this year, it just could come from anywhere.
Yeah.
So it does look like there's some good games on this game week. So, and it's the fact that it's a cup game week as well. It's going to make it all the more interesting, I think.
Absolutely, I think if we could pull out a cup draw where both teams are hitting into the 50s and 60s, that could be really interesting.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want to happen.
Absolutely.
So before we get to the cup draw, I know that's what everybody's waiting for. Let's go through your segment, Adam.
Yeah, I thought I'd take a little bit of deviation away from the stats side of things this week. So I think we've been kind of drowned in stats for a while now. So I thought I'd take a little bit of inspiration from the cup, as it's the cup weekend, and we have this we have had this conversation towards the end of the season, every season so far, because there's two ways of setting up the league. There is the way that we do it at the moment, which is basically whoever scores the most points wins. The other way of doing it is a head-to-head league, so running it very much like we do, or like the Premier League do, where you have fixtures from one week to the next.
Yeah.
So just to run through the rules side of things for how this would work, each team would play two other teams 5 times, and the remaining 7 teams, they would play 4 times in one season, mainly because obviously there's 10 of us in the league. There's 38 game weeks, so you would end up playing 2 other teams 1 game more than 7 others.
Okay.
Obviously, it's very similar to the cup as we run it at the moment. So whoever scores the highest points out of that fixture, you would then get 3 points for the win, 1 point if you got a draw, and obviously if you lost that fixture, then you get 0 points. Points difference are calculated in case teams are actually tied on league points. So as it says, for example, if Team A scores 40 points and Team B scores 20, then first of all, Team A would get the 3 points because they've won that fixture, and their points difference would be plus 20, but Team B's points difference would be minus 20.
Yeah.
Now, truth be told, this kind of segment, there would always be some level of variant to how it looks like at the end. The reason for why is because obviously you're just randomizing fixtures to get a base to work off, and then just repeating those fixtures 4 or the 5 times, depending on how it's listed.
Yeah.
So if I just show you the fixture list as to what it would look like, this is just completely randomized. So I took all 10 teams, put them into a 38 game week fixture list, and press randomize, and this is how it came up.
Okay.
So it's there's quite a bit of writing on here, so just bear with me with this. But you can see across the top of all the graphs here, these are the game weeks where these fixtures would be played. So you've got game weeks 1, 10, 19, 28, and 37. And that would then equal Jack would play Tom, Luke would play Jim, George would play Will, Adam would face Tolly, and Richard would face Lawrence. And you can have a look through that. So should be fairly straightforward, although there's quite a bit of writing on here.
Yeah, I think it's not easy, is it, to see, and I don't think it means much at the moment. It's just showing, right, this is what your randomized draw came out as. But what we want to know, Adam, is who would have done the best.
So what I've done is I've broken it down into different rounds of fixtures. So you can see that for everyone to play everyone would take 9 game weeks, first of all. So the first round would be 9 game weeks. The second round would be 9 game weeks as well, and so on and so forth. So I've broken it down in that respect. So just out of instance, I'm going to show you what the league table would be like after the first round of fixtures. Okay, so after 9 game weeks, Jim would be top, Tom would be bottom, Will, obviously, you can see there would be 9th, Lawrence 2nd, so on and so forth. So you can see how it's all set up. So you've got everyone's played the same amount of games. You've got how many that you would have won. Obviously, there would have been no draws in the first 9 game weeks. You could imagine that there's not going to be too many draws throughout the season.
Yeah.
But, you know, it can happen. Anything can happen. But you could see after 9 game weeks, Jim would be top of the league by 3 points. His points difference is actually coincidentally the second best in the league, because you can see that yourself, Luke, although you're on 15, so 6 points behind Jim, your points difference is actually 6 better than what Jim's is. So that kind of tells us that when you are winning your fixture, you're winning them fairly handsomely, but possibly when you're losing the fixtures, you're only just losing.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting contrast. So if we move on to game week 18, you'll see that there's a little bit of movement. So Jim would still be top on 36 points, but George has now claimed that 3 points back and is level on top with him. You can see that myself and Tom, coincidentally, are joint bottom as well. After game week 18, to give you an idea, the normal league would look like Lawrence was top, Luke was second, Jack was third, James was fourth, Rich was fifth, Will was sixth, Tolly was 7th, George was 8th, Tom was 9th, and I was bottom. So actually you can see that had we had done a head-to-head league across these fixtures which were randomised, George would be joint top. But in the way that we've done it in terms of the amount of points you gain would order your position, he's actually sat in 8th after game week 18.
Yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting.
So it's just imagine that complete different mindset of being joint top, thinking, okay, I'm basically halfway through the season, thinking that he could well win the league. Whereas when you look at it from the way that we do it at the moment, George is down in 8th and Jim's in 4th as well, to be fair. So actually it's an interesting contrast to the way we do it against how it could look like.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing that I'm just thinking about out loud is that, you know, that's not quite the halfway mark, but almost. And you know, you and Tom are at the bottom. Are you thinking, have we got enough game weeks left to catch up with the leaders in this head-to-head mode? Whereas if it's like what we've currently done, as Tom's shown, if you score really high week on week on week, you can rise up the leaderboard quite quickly. And this, it sort of limits you doing that to some degree, doesn't it?
It's a really good train of thought, actually, that. So this, I think the head-to-head league actually gives us a better understanding of consistency, and actually whoever would win a head-to-head league would have been more consistent throughout the season. But on the flip side, the way that we do it at the moment, basically, as we've seen, Will and Tom top 2 at the moment, but they were kind of 9th, 10th, 8th, 9th, 10th for quite a while, and then had a surge, and then suddenly find themselves at the complete opposite end of the table. So it's I just think it's an interesting concept as to how it would work. The reason being is obviously we have this conversation all the time. I personally prefer the way that we do it anyway, but just out of interest, the reason being with the cups being quite an entertaining way of doing it, whether or not you would actually kill the cups by doing it head to head, because it doesn't quite mean as much. But I thought it was an interesting concept to have a look to see what it would have ended up like had we done a head-to-head league. And actually, I was quite intrigued by the results.
Okay.
So, moving on into game week 27. So this is after the third round of fixtures. You'll notice that there's been a little bit of movement here as well. George has now gone top with 3 points clear. Rich has actually fallen to the bottom. So that actually follows basically what had happened in the normal league as we run it at the moment as well. You'll see as well we've got the introduction of a few draws, which happened through the middle of this round of fixtures. So to give you an idea, so the draws came about by Rich and Jack ended up tying 34 each in game week 23. You had Luke against Rich as well, game week 24, 46 all. So there's interesting that actually with the draw side of things, actually you'll see that Rich hasn't actually lost as many as Tom and I, but those draws have caused him to go bottom place, even though it's just by the 1 point.
Yeah.
So obviously that's game week after game week 27. We've had 2 game weeks since then. So I thought I'd bring an up-to-date look as to what the league head-to-head league would like from today. So there's not going to be too much difference here between obviously after game week 27 and to current day. But you can see that George has actually extended his lead from Jim. So we're looking at myself and Richard as well, still stone cold bottom like the league that we run at the moment. But it's an interesting way of looking at it because George has had a little surge, so it does find himself in 4th place at the way that we look at the table as we speak at the moment. But actually, he would be well clear after game week 29 on this head-to-head league.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just trying to think if does the head-to-head result change much depending on the original draw of fixtures? I suppose it could do, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though we're still playing everybody, it's just the week you play them would be different, wouldn't it? So
yeah. So as I mentioned at the start, there's always going to be a variant there, dependent on the way that the fixtures fall.
Yeah.
But you would still imagine that you would get a better look of consistency through the head-to-head league.
Yeah, I suppose if you looked at my position, for example, I've won 14, drawn 1 and lost 14. So would my position actually change that much depending on the fixtures, considering I've
you're fairly equal.
I'm fairly equal, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas George, who's only lost 9, his fixtures, depending on the week that he gets them, could actually maybe impact his results a lot more.
Yeah,
I don't know,
he could have found himself possibly down in 4th or 5th rather than top.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't get my head around whether I would prefer it or not. I think there's probably too much riding on those original fixtures.
I think this is it, isn't it? It's I like the thought concept of a head-to-head league.
Yeah.
But as you can see, and as you spoke about after the halfway point, if you are down in 8th or 10th, your season is nearly basically over after halfway. Whereas when we look at it for the way that we do it at the moment, all you need really is, say, 3 or 4 really consistent high weeks in a row, and suddenly you've jumped halfway up the league or 3/4 of the way up the league.
Yeah.
So it does give us a better understanding as to how people look at the way that they play the game. On the flip side, a head-to-head league could be really interesting in the respect that actually the amount of free agents that go through and waivers could be quite significant, because you're looking at fixtures from week to week rather than say, right, this player's got a really good run over the next 8 weeks. You might like as what has happened with George in the Cup. He's brought in 3 Brighton players, which you wouldn't normally do unless there was a one specific week to really gain points.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. It is interesting. I think you're right. It will definitely gauge some conversation in the group again when we come to have this conversation again about whether to do a head-to-head league.
Especially from Jim, as he finds himself in second on this.
Yeah. But again, I think everyone's got to remember is that those original fixtures can have a big impact on where you would finish here.
Yeah.
So
the only interesting constant is Richard and I being cut well adrift as we are. So.
Yeah, it does sort of mirror some sort of form from our current league, but I guess those weeks where some of the managers that are at the top now, those weeks where they are off, are clearly not as much. I mean, George's points difference is huge.
Yeah, it just shows that whenever George, in these fixtures, whenever he does well, he does really well.
Yeah.
And when you look at it on the flip side, you've got Tolly that's in 4th but is on -11 for his points difference. And actually, when we look back at the previous round, Tolly was actually on -53. So it does take a couple of weeks to really get a consistent jump up the league look at things.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I mean, there's only 3 points between 3rd and 6th on that one. So you could say the top 6 could be a tight run into the final of the league.
Yeah, and even looking at kind of 2nd to 3rd, so Jim being only 6 points ahead of Lawrence, that is 2 game weeks. So after game week 31, they could well be tied on points, and then George might have lost his 2. And you're thinking, okay, there are swings and roundabouts to it, dependent on form as well.
Yeah. Okay. I just can't decide whether I would prefer that or not. I'm not basing it on the fact that in your scenario I'm 6th. I'm basing it on I'm not sure personally I'd be able to play that style very well. And like you said, does it impact us running our cups in any way? You effectively got 2 fixtures, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it really does take away the edge that the cup gives us in terms of, as the listeners may or may not know from the group chat, whenever there's a cup weekend, the chat is on, literally bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
All weekend, just purely because of the cup. Because there's just something extra riding on our standardized game weeks. Whereas I think doing a head-to-head league would take away from that. But I think it would really, it would take a lot more effort, I think, to do a head-to-head league in terms of each manager looking at fixtures and getting an understanding as to who they want to bring in terms of waivers, trades as well. I think it would actually give us a slightly different dimension on that front.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the group make of it and what they say. So it'd be interesting to see if more people do prefer doing this I can't remember who said they did last year that they wanted to do this method.
It's been brought up towards the end of the season, every season so far that we've run it, and we've kept on with the classic mode as such, really. And personally, I would stick with that as well, because I think it keeps people interested for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with a head-to-head league, like we've mentioned, you could be halfway through the season and actually you're cut well adrift, and it kind of then just stops the whole mentality of actually wanting to put time and effort into it.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for doing that. That is really interesting, and I'm sure we'll get some chat going in the WhatsApp group about this. But it's now time for the segment that everybody's been waiting for, the semi-final cup draw for the DBF Pokal Cup. So, here Adam is, ready to do the draw live for us. Well, sort of live for me on the podcast anyway. But, yeah. Run us through who the ball numbers are, Adam, before you draw them out.
So, welcome everyone. Just to run through the ball numbers, they will correlate with how the quarterfinals were listed originally, and whoever won that tie would be the relevant ball number. So, quarterfinal 1, Luke Headley of Expected to Lose beat George's Ajax Treesdown. So Luke will be ball number 1. Jack and Roque Santanudes beat James Oram of Emil Pesky in quarterfinal 2. So Jack will be ball number 2. The biggest cup set of all time, Richard of Bruno Fernandes beat top of the league Team Rowe in quarterfinal 3. So Richard would be ball number 3. And Gareth Northgate, Will Morris beat the Wacky Witnets, managed by Tolly Oram in quarterfinal 4. So Gareth Northgate, you are ball number 4.
Okay. I'm ready for this, Adam. I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
So, just to confirm, everyone, I have my balls inside of my Pyrex dish. They are covered by the teat out, so I have no idea who I'm drawing. So let's get this underway. So,
semi-final number 1.
The first team, the home team of semi-final number 1, is ball number 4, Gareth Northgate. And he is going to play ball number 1.
Oh, no.
Luke Headley's Expected to Lose.
Okay. I might be able to deal with that.
So we should know who semi-final 2 is, but we'll draw the home side. The home team is going to be ball number 3. Richard. Bruno Fernandes will play ball number 2. Jack Farthing's Roque Santanudes. Just to run through and recap the rules, obviously, if in case of a draw, the semi-finals will go to penalties, where your top 5 scoring players from the game week will go head-to-head with the opposition's top 5 goal point scoring players from this game week in a shootout. So if there's a tie on points there, both players would have scored their penalty. If, for instance, Jack Grealish scores 10 points and Mo Salah scores 9 points, then Jack Grealish would have scored his penalty and Mo Salah would have missed his penalty.
Okay.
Best of luck.
Thanks for that, Adam. Oh, well, maybe I'm not thanking you, but I'm sure some people will be.
Morris was after a home draw.
He was.
Got what he's asked for.
Yes. So let's have a quick discussion about these 2 semi-finals then. Let's start with semi-final number 1, which, as you've just mentioned, is Gareth Northgate versus Expected to Lose. So Will and myself. Give me your thoughts, Adam. Lay it on me. have I got a chance?
Ooh, it's going to be a close one, isn't it? I think. I think the ties that we've pulled out are probably the closest ties on paper that we could have drawn. I just. I like the look of Will's team, but only if his players play, which in the main they do. But he's got a couple of players there which are in and out. After the international break, you never know who's, first of all, going to catch COVID. Second of all, who is returning to training, club training late because of travel. Who might pick up injuries between now and the next weekend. I you love a cup run. You love a cup run. And I've got a sneaky feeling you might just pull it out the bag when you need to. And the El Presidente did cut deep with you, I think, as we all know. I just think there's revenge for that on your mind.
I'd like to think so. I'm just, I could really have done with Maddison coming back right now. My concern is that my team is probably say arguably more defensive than Will's team is in terms of the players I've got. So I am riding on clean sheets probably more than he is.
But clean sheets, when you start to get 3, maybe even 4 of them, they add up. They add up. I mean,
they do.
Tyrone Mings that you've got, I think, Villa at home to Fulham, you would hope 6 points there. United with, I think you've got Harry Maguire as well, haven't you? At home to Brighton. You've got Christensen, if he plays for Chelsea as well, at home to West Brom. There's just something, I think, if you don't get through, I think it's going to be that forward line.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think that Adams and Ward-Prowse will score because they have been, like you said, Ward-Prowse is, again, come off scoring for England, so hopefully his confidence will be up. Adams has been on good form for the Saints recently, so I'm putting a lot on them. Gundogan, he's fallen off now. I don't think he'll be scoring like he was at all, but I could be wrong.
Is that you throwing him up for a trade?
Potentially, but I don't know who.
Breaking news.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I can just see Tolly straight in my inbox. And yeah, I think I got to keep him, but because I need someone in that City team.
He's definitely going to be offering you Tyler Roberts, isn't he?
Yeah, so maybe I need to have a look at my my waivers, see who I can bring in this week to try and hopefully bring me some more points. I'm stuck with my keepers. Neither of them have got a good game this week, so I've put Leno in against Liverpool rather than Schmeichel against City, but I don't think either of them are going to keep a clean sheet. But if any of them has a chance, I would have thought it's the Arsenal game.
Yeah, I think looking at it from Will's point of view, obviously he's got a spine of Villa players, of Martinez, Konsa and Bertrand Traore. You're looking at, if Villa do keep a clean sheet, then you're counteracting Konsa's clean sheet because assuming that there's no injuries, Mings and Konsa are going to be the centre half pairing at the back. But then you're looking at Martinez, who does love a save bonus point and bonus points in general.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be the deciding factor. And then you're looking at Kane as well. Kane away to Newcastle. I think you're going to need him to have a bit of a quiet day in terms of scoring the goals, because I can't see Tottenham not beating Newcastle by a few goals. Maybe you're going to be wanting Kane just to take a day off a little bit and let Son and Bale or Mora or any other Spurs player to be scoring the points, but not Kane. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, it's a big hope. It's a big hope. But yeah, no, it could be interesting. I think we'll have to wait and see. So let's have a look at semi-final number 2 then. So Richard versus Jack. My initial reaction is I think Jack is favoured here.
Yeah, I think poor Rich, he's not had the best of seasons overall. I think, that 1 week where he knocked top of the league Tom Rowe out in the quarterfinals, quite monumental, and maybe may just define his whole season as a whole. I think, there's possibilities there for Rich, though.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah, looking at his team.
You look at Aspilicueta, he is more than likely going to play against West Brom. You would expect 6 points there. You're looking at kind of the West Ham trio of Dawson, Lingard, and Antonio. If West Ham are going to score goals, it's more than likely going to come from Antonio, Lingard. Obviously, Will's got Souček as well. So I think there's players there which could cause Jack a problem. But as we know, Jack would be the favourite going into it with his side, especially with the bigger names that he's got in his team, the Salahs, the Sterlings, the Matt Targets. These players are more than likely going to see him home, assuming there's no issue with injury on the international break or COVID outbreaks.
Yeah.
Because this could really put the cat amongst the pigeons. If somebody does get injured or contracts COVID whilst on international break, we could end up seeing another upset.
Yeah, I suppose if games get postponed, like they were getting postponed earlier in the season, that could have an impact on the cup results.
Could end up with a serious knock-on effect between what people do in now what is the home straight of the whole season in general. Game week 30, it's game on now for quite a number of managers. The ones in mid-table that are wanting to push towards the top. Tom has got a nice, healthy lead. It's now the nitty-gritty, and I am really, really pumped from the outside looking in. Being down towards the bottom, I'm really intrigued as to what's going to happen between now and the end of the season, and not only just this weekend with the semi-finals as well.
Yeah, agreed. It's going to be a good one. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We've got some good semi-final draws for the DBF Pokal Cup. Got a really interesting segment on the head-to-head. So thanks for that again, Adam. Thanks for coming on as always.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Looking forward to having you back for the final episode of this season.
We've got something special lined up.
Yes, that's going to be a good one, I think. So make sure you keep on listening. Plenty more episodes to come between now and then. Again, thanks for coming on, Adam.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Please remember to subscribe and like the video. And all I'm going to say is, this is the DraftCast, and remember, draft is life. See you next time.